My name is Clara Mason. I'm a South African living in Europe for the last 15, 16 years of my life. And my profession is a thought leadership publicist. So I work with lots of really amazing entrepreneurs around the world, and I get them into the media to raise their profiles. So I work with lots of editors, journalists, podcast hosts as well. So the way I would describe how I felt, on the surface, everything was fine. And I would say on the surface, I looked like a very functional human being. I was already self-employed, but I had a roster of clients. So I was busy. In actual fact, I was too busy. I was in clients' offices all day long. I had income coming in. I was in a relationship at the time. I had my home. So on the surface, everything was fine. But underneath that was a lot of stuff that wasn't fine by a very long shot. So I was not, I didn't have an overview. I was so busy in my life that I had no time to sort of stop and think, is this what I want? You know, and I had I'd wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 10 past 4 I'd be working, because that was the only way I knew. But there's a difference between being a very productive person and just being somebody who is like chasing your tail all the time. So I had created a life for myself where I was very much on a hamster wheel, and every morning that I woke up, it was the same story. So I was eating badly, and also I was starting to notice too that I was starting to have a recurring nightmare every night that I was drowning. Yeah, I just felt like there were a few things in my life that were starting to give me indications that I was on a slippery slope to a dark place, and I needed to address, and I didn't actually know how to address it. So a few things. I can definitely recognize there was a lot of low self-esteem going on. The other thing that I will say was a lot of frustration and a lot of feeling like I wanted to get ahead, but I felt like I was in a harness that was pulling me back all the time. And then, Alison, this isn't the easiest thing to admit, but I have to be honest with you and say I had a lot of anger. What we all experienced with COVID, in terms of everything got chaotic and we all had to recalibrate life, my own major life event that happened just after we went into lockdown, which was separation and has become divorce. The relationship at that time was in very hot water and had been in very hot water for a long time, and there was a reluctance to do anything about it. And that obviously caused a lot of what I was describing earlier, the frustration, the anger, that became my experience over the last while. And then of course what it brings into your life, firstly it brings sheer terror. Let's be honest, when we're making big changes in our life, it is petrifying. Sometimes the only thing that I could figure out was what I was going to do the very next minute. I didn't know what my life was going to look like in 6 months' time, 1 year's time. I still actually don't. I'm coming to the end of this whole divorce experience now, but I'm not finished yet. So there's still some stuff that's very unknown for me. But I took a lot of comfort from what you had shared with me about how we can sort of make these, like, even if it's 1% at a time, we can move forward with progress, and we will eventually get to a place where the skies aren't dark anymore. And that was a very hopeful message that I needed when actually I was devastated and I was sad and I was bewildered, and it was a very difficult time. I can answer that in 2 words, Alison: tough love. That is your trademark. I have to say that to you. That's definitely your trademark in my mind. The reason why I knew about you, but the reason why I signed up to your course was very much the tough love approach. Like, there is definitely love, there's a lot of warmth, there's a lot of care, there's a lot of generosity, but there is zero time for your BS sitting in your mind. I needed that. I needed the kick up the butt. I feel, because I'm somebody who's been in therapy for a long time and I really prioritize my therapy and I love it, I feel you've got a very expansive idea of how to work with transformation in people. It felt like I felt very reassured that I was in the hands of an expert. All of your credibility was there for everybody to see, and that was what made me trust you. What happened was I kind of made this agreement with myself that I couldn't feel grumpy for longer than like an hour. So I'd let myself have an hour, and maybe I'd go for a walk and be really moany. But then I would say, okay, like even if you end the day doing just one good thing, one good thing for yourself, whatever that might be. Maybe it was a little bit of exercise, maybe it was a proper meal that I made or whatever. Then I would always say, it's not a wasted day. And then the next day I get myself back into the routine. That I've had a lot of transformation in my life over the last few years too, and the food thing has been huge, because as I've taken on board, actually I'm the one that's got the power to change this. And so that goes from a very difficult message to hear to a wonderful message to hear, because it means the only person in charge of my life is me. And yeah, you have a bad day and the revenue phones you and you've got a bit of a situation to deal with, whatever, fine. But it doesn't ever take away from the fact that I'm the person that gets to be the boss of my life. And now that is, like, as you were saying, the most fun ever. And Alison, and also again, the mental work, because actually making a beautiful meal or even going to the gym and exercising is only the most wonderful thing. It was all the mental stuff of doing it. It wasn't like I don't go to the gym now and lift weights and like, I hate these weights, I'm not feeling that. Or if I make like a beautiful I actually love it. I love making my beautiful food. I love the way it feels in my body. I love the mindfulness of preparing a healthy meal. I love the commitment that I'm showing to myself of going to the gym. I love the feeling of moving my body. I love the feeling of strength in my body. The thing was mental. In the time, like, I actually lost 18 kilograms. Wow. I can also say to you, I was a size, so 2019 was when I turned 40. I was a size 16. I'm now 44. I'm in my mid 40s. I'm a size 10.
No, you became another woman.
And like, just remember, I'm getting older. I'm not in menopause, but I'm probably in the time of perimenopause. And like, you get all that stuff too. Oh, you can't lose weight when you get older. Well, actually, I've gone from a size 16 to a size 10 as an older woman. It was slow, but I've done what they always say. It was total lifestyle change. It wasn't like I ate a stick of celery for 3 weeks and dropped a few kilograms, but then you can't sustain that. Yeah. And people always comment to me that I am wearing a little bit of makeup now and a bit of lipstick, but people always comment to me that my skin looks so good. I've never felt better than what I'm feeling as an older person. Yeah. Oh. A few things on that, Alison. The very obvious one is losing all the weight that I lost. That's very obvious. Underneath that is the self-esteem that grew. The way I actually like myself now. So I treat myself with a lot more, I actually even love myself now. So I treat myself with a lot more respect, a lot more kindness. And that means I'm actually a nicer person to have in the world, because now I have got love and care and generosity to give to other people, which I believe I was doing before, but I was doing it from a very empty place. Whereas now I'm somebody who I have an understanding now of of looking after myself so I can do that, not running myself into the ground so I can do that, and then ultimately you collapse because you can't sustain that. I was living on autopilot, as you say. Point B is more and more me becoming more and more conscious about what power resides with me, how powerful I am to create my life by design and not default. And in terms of the very physical manifestations of what that looks like, so eating healthier, exercising, running my business very differently. Yeah, I still have down days, but I can tell you now, I would never choose to live my life differently. And I will never hand over the power of my life to anything else again. Like, I am the boss, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's all on me. The other thing too, it's like, actually, it's all very funny and cute that I'm wearing a tiara on my head, but the reason why I deliberately put this on my head before I spoke to you is this also, I do a lot of my own promotional work for my business as the queen of thought leadership publicity, so this is why I have it on my head. It takes a lot of guts to stick a tiara on your head, take a photograph of yourself, and then stick it on LinkedIn. And I'm also, when I'm in networking groups in person, when I'm doing presentations in person, I've got this puppy on my head. That is all of the mindset work that has taken place underneath it, because I'm not running around town going, oh, I'm better than you, but I am going around a town saying, I am good at this, I am capable, I want to help you, and I'm standing very firmly in my own power. So this again is the very obvious thing that you can see, but underneath this has been that mindset work you really worked on with me. You and I really stepped into the arena, if you know what I mean by that.
I know.
We really went head to head on things, and I look at myself and I think, God, I had such a fixed mindset, which I understand what that means now. At the time I didn't have a clue, but like closed. And now like just that's another thing of what's happened, is being open to possibility and being way more adaptable, which I think is the number one trait you need. I'd say where I am now, I'm probably getting things, I'll label it as right 85% of the time, and 15% of the time maybe I will go to the shop and buy a chocolate or whatever, but I'm fine with that level. Whereas before, Alison, I'm not kidding when I'd say I didn't have 6 slices of toast for breakfast, but in a day I'd have loads of bread, loads of chocolate, loads of cake, loads of crisps, and I didn't even feel good eating it. It wasn't even that I was enjoying the stuff, but I was so, as you were saying, automatic, just eating. So those were my difficulties: anger, resentment, and then falling off the wagon basically, and having to re-motivate myself to get back on the wagon, and then also still wanting to blame other people, and then getting really cross because the awareness was starting to dawn on me that actually there isn't anyone else to blame. So there was like a bit of a mental battle going on there, where obviously I don't feel that at all anymore. Now I'm so 100%, I'm the queen here. Hello, Tiara.
I love it.
Alison, for me, you are a brilliant person. You are a brilliant coach for people who want to be challenged, for people who want to be accountable, and for people who want big changes in their lives. I think there are any number of people who can help you. Somebody could have helped me make a new breakfast menu, for example. That wasn't the level of transformation I was at. I needed total overhaul of everything. Like nothing in my life was working. And those are the people I would recommend to you. And I would also say the reason why I target, I would say specifically women who are moving into middle age, is because your message, you do come with a lot of tough love, but your message is ultimately very helpful, very empowering, very positive, very exciting. You have a very exciting message that actually the life of your dreams is possible. And that's, now that I'm 44, I just feel like the world is only starting to open up for me. If someone said to me now, you can go back to being 21, I'd actually say, no, thank you. I really love being 44, And that is where I think you would make such a big change to everybody who works with you. But because I'm a middle-aged woman who's experienced that with you, that is who I would recommend you to. You need Alison in your life because he already sees the new version of you that you can achieve. And he actually has the map to get you there. All you have to do is follow it. But somebody's already done all the hard thinking about how to get you to that new you, and that somebody is Alison. So there were many times that I was actually borrowing Alison's belief in me, faith, energy. I borrowed your energy many times when I didn't have energy of my own. I was borrowing your confidence. I was borrowing your vision, until I totally integrated this into myself. And here, 4 years later, you can see what that looks like. But up until this point, I was borrowing all of that from you, and I was just trusting in this vision that you held of me and moving towards it. And one of the things also is when somebody helps you with the map to do this, as you did for me, that takes away a lot of the overwhelm, because all I had to do was actually show up and do the stuff. And of course, that came with all the mental rigor that I had to go through. But I didn't have to sit there and figure out how to do this in the first place. You did that part. So that is what I would say. Alison holds the new vision for you the vision of the new you until you reach it. Then it becomes yours. And he hands it over to you and says, go, my little baby, my new little baby. That's what I would say. You definitely hold visions of who people can be in your mind. And in your space. you know, there's a lot in this, because I do therapy, I do coaching, all this kind of stuff. In terms of professional development, there's a lot of terminology around holding space. It's a very different thing when you actually experience it, and it's not just language anymore. It's not just words. You actually experience someone holding space for you. It really is something in the energy changes.